A look into the future, how drones could be a way for Taiwan to bolster its defense capabilities. North Korea fires a record number of missiles on a single day as tensions on the Korean peninsula mount. A political storm brews around Taiwan's National Palace Museum, where 3 artifacts have shattered in 2 years. Plus, sweet, sweet victory. Taiwan wins an award for team spirit at a dessert competition in France. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan's military has begun investing in defensive drones that explode on impact, local media has reported. As drone warfare has become extremely commonplace on the modern battlefield, it's hoped that these aircraft will be a cost-effective way to help bolster the country's defensive capabilities. Jaime Ocon has more.
This is the Jianxiang drone, a so-called suicide drone. Its main purpose is to seek out targets, fly directly toward them, and then explode on impact. This model is one of Taiwan's first ever domestically manufactured suicide drones. Military analysts believe these drones could help deter naval attacks from across the Taiwan Strait.
中共对台湾的威胁来自于海上，今天过来这个舰翔的无人机，刚好就是反辐射的一种自杀无人机，对它的军舰实施自杀攻击。
Taiwan has lived with the threat of invasion for decades. Neighboring China considers the country as part of its territory and has vowed to bring Taiwan under its control by force if necessary. Recently, China has been ramping up its military presence around Taiwan's coastline. Experts believe that utilizing drones could go a long way to enhancing Taiwan's defensive capabilities.
你说的这个 drone 的用法，的确就是它可以发挥就是这种观察的效果。 那你观察之后，你就可以用 anti-ship missile， 就是反舰飞弹，去攻击中国的这些 warship， 这是一个很好的方法。
Taiwan has a number of different types of drones in its arsenal, each meant for a different mission set.
There's very big varieties of drones, right? There is reconnaissance drones, homemade drones, long-range drones that can fire on the enemy. But again, war is about intelligence, preventing your enemy from surprising you.
In Europe, the war in Ukraine has demonstrated how drones can be used to fend off larger attacking forces. Ukraine's military has been using drones as a way to monitor Russian troop movements. This information then allows them to focus artillery fire on their targets.
Having the firepower now, and then knowing exactly what to use that firepower on, not a single round is wasted.
Taiwan's military expenditure still pales in comparison to China. Beijing spends almost 17 times more than Taipei in defense and has roughly 4 times the number of military aircraft. But experts say that drones like the Jianxiang provide a cost-effective solution, allowing Taiwan to help protect its borders without breaking the bank.
目前这个自杀无人机变成一个是比较便宜的一个弹药，我们通常称为是 low cost munition， 这对于抵消敌人的这个数量优势很有帮助。所以对台湾来讲，因为你的国防资源比较有限，你的 budget 你的预算比较有限，所以这些无人机就会变成台湾一个很好的选择。
Taiwan's military plans to procure more drones from the West, while also developing its domestic drone capabilities. The country is hopeful that doing so can help ensure national security and avoid putting Taiwanese troops in harm's way. James Rayner and Jaime Ocon for TaiwanPlus.
A report has revealed that more than $670,000 worth of military equipment bought from the United States was defective. The audit found 35 cases between 2017 and 2021 where deliveries were broken or non-functioning when the military came to use the equipment. All the items were placed into storage before testing. The US has rejected claims for compensation, saying it's too late. The discovery has led to calls from Taiwan lawmakers for the military to properly test and inspect purchases after they are delivered. Tensions on the Korean peninsula are showing no signs of easing. North and South Korea both fired missiles, landing in waters off each other's coasts on Wednesday. Pyongyang has reportedly fired at least 23 missiles, including one that landed near the coast of South Korea. Rare air raid sirens sounded on South Korean television in response to the launches. South Korea's president said the North would, quote, pay the price for provocation, and in return ordered the South's Air Force to launch missiles near the Korean maritime border. The latest launches come after Pyongyang promised powerful measures in response to the US and South Korea holding their largest ever joint air drills this week. For more on the recent developments on the Korean peninsula, our reporter Jaime Ocon spoke to To-hai Liu, adjunct professor in Taiwan's National Zhengzhi University.
With the US and South Korea conducting their largest joint air drills, and now North Korea responding with missile tests, what does this say about security on the Korean peninsula?
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a typical what's called action-reaction model. Neither side is willing to make concessions or to show it is the weaker side. North Korea said why they did this. It's primarily because of the United States and the South Korea. They were doing a vigilant storm, large ever, military exercise. So that is why North Korea is not very happy about this, and they have to show they are angered.
Experts said that a nuclear test from North Korea would not take place until after China's President Xi Jinping would secure a third term. Now that that's done and dusted, what does the timeline look now for a nuclear test?
They predict North Korea is going to detonate its seventh nuclear bomb. In reality, China is not going to accept this because China has said many times, Chinese side does not want to see North Korea to make any nuclear detonation. So I personally believe North Korea will continue to test missiles. In that case, North Korea will not offend China because now North Korea needs to have a positive relationship with China. In particular, also, I said last time, North Korea already believe it is a nuclear state anyway. So there is no need to test the nuclear bombs. On the other hand, North Korea wants to show it has a better ballistic, continental, this kind of missile capability. In particular, to show North Korean missiles can hit U.S.'s military bases in Guam, Okinawa.
Back in Taiwan, lawmakers are calling for action after Taipei's National Palace Museum allegedly covered up the destruction of 3 priceless artifacts. And as John Van Trieste reports, it has now become the center of a political dispute.
Centuries of history smashed on the floor. This porcelain bowl from the collection of Taipei's National Palace Museum is one of 3 precious artifacts found in pieces at the museum in recent years. Museum director Umi Cha confirmed one was broken by staff. He says the other 2 were already damaged when the boxes were opened. But those claims are being questioned by opposition lawmakers.
如他们所说的前2暗示打开来的时候就已经有损毁，如同他提供给我们的报告资料的话，那应该要把相关的影片是让大家清楚的能够知道，他的确是开箱的时候就有，而不是只有透过报告方式让大家理清而已。因为的确我们也接到陈情人表示，他这前2件可能也是人为造成的。
The museum's director was appointed by the ruling party, and with opposition parties alleging a cover-up and calling for an investigation, the issue is now putting one of Taiwan's top tourist attractions at the center of a political dispute. They say the evidence provided by the museum was questionable.
双龙小碗破碎的照片不是第一现场，第一现场照片是被隐匿。整个的行政调查为什么拖了3个月以上？
With around 700,000 artifacts, the National Palace Museum holds one of the largest collections of Chinese art in the world. The pieces were shipped from China last century by the then-ruling Kuomintang Party during the Chinese Civil War. Opposition politicians say the public deserves more transparency. Taiwan's premier has weighed in.
这一方面，他应该把它交代清楚。你说国人也在等待嘛？ 那这个交代清楚。另外，我也会来了解这怎么一回事。
The government has yet to commit to a full investigation, but for now, it's brought further attention on how Taiwan relates to its past and its Chinese heritage. Asnaya Zhou and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
A visiting delegation of European lawmakers from the Interparliamentary Alliance on China, or IPAC, has compared Taiwan to Ukraine. In a visit to the legislature on Wednesday, the delegation said it came to show support for Taiwan and democracy. Members said Taiwan was on the front line against a colonial and influential state, China. The group, which includes 8 lawmakers from Britain, the Netherlands, Belgium and Germany, is on a 4-day visit to Taiwan. This is IPAC's first visit to the country. The bloc includes lawmakers from 29 countries working to change how democratic nations approach relations with Beijing. They are expected to meet with President Tsai Ing-wen on Thursday. TaiwanPlus reporter Rick Lauert spoke to a lawmaker from the Netherlands, Sjoerd Sjoerdsma, who is leading the IPAC delegation.
Could you tell us why this delegation is visiting Taiwan?
Democracy worldwide is under attack, whether it's through the naked physical aggression of Russia against Ukraine, but also, of course, the slow eroding campaign waged by Beijing. So we're here to show our solidarity with Taiwan, but also, of course, to see whether we can strengthen our relationships.
We know that in the lead up to visits like this, lawmakers often face pressure or intimidation from Beijing not to go. Can you tell us why you still wanted to make this trip in spite of opposition from China?
Well, I think first of all, we need more parliamentary delegations, more visits, not less. I think we need more meaningful participation of Taiwan in international organizations such as the World Health Organization, the UN Climate Organization, the UN Civil Aviation Organization, and our countries can support Taiwan in making sure that this actually happens. But also, and I think this is crucial, now that we see that Beijing and Russia are trying to replace the international system, friends like European countries and Taiwan need to cooperate in strengthening their economic ties, trade ties, investment ties, because we simply cannot depend on the economy in Beijing anymore.
Can you tell us a little bit about how attitudes towards China and Taiwan are changing in Europe?
And the question we're all asking ourselves is, if we'd known beforehand for sure that Russia would have invaded Ukraine, would we have done anything differently? Would we have done anything differently in supporting Ukraine and pressurizing Russia? Now, of course, we cannot change the past of Ukraine and Russia, but perhaps we can help change the future of Taiwan, because Taiwan is being faced, of course, with a similar situation, a situation in which Beijing is not only policy-wise very clear, but also outspoken in the words of their president that Taiwan is facing a threat by Beijing. Now, we all recognize, and I think this urgency is new, I think in Europe, that the consequences of a Chinese move on Taiwan would be manifold the consequences that we've already felt from an invasion in Ukraine. So this sense of urgency and the sense that countries like Taiwan need our solidarity, I think that's absolutely new, but also heartfelt.
In some positive cross-strait news, Chinese experts have arrived in Taiwan to help an ailing panda at Taipei Zoo.
2位分别在兽医、饲养管理与护理方面经验丰富，并且有照顾过团团圆圆以及圆仔的经验，非常适合这次的工作。
The 2 vets went straight to the zoo after landing in Taoyuan Airport on Monday night. Officials say the experts will only advise on treatment and not perform any procedures. 18-year-old Tuan is suffering from brain lesions. He has lost much of his appetite. Taipei Zoo reached out to China for help last week. The vets will be in Taiwan for 7 days. Coming up, a naval debate. Taiwan's lawmakers aren't happy with the country's new frigates. Stay tuned to find out why.
所以你觉得山给了你什么？
没有办法用几句简短的话语来带过，但它造就现在的我。
山就是给了一个我们远离世俗的环境，你可以忘记很多事情。 不要怕去探索新的东西吧。
很深沉的去认识一块土地，去认识一个很深邃的自然。
在山的面前，你只会一直感觉到自己的渺小。
每一次都有不同的考验哦。
妈妈表现怎么样？
很好，10分坚强。
山是有魔力的地方。
那如果今天不让你爬山，你觉得你会死？
生命肯定会延续下去，但我想心灵有一部分会枯萎掉了。
Thanks for watching TaiwanPlus. For more great stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app.
Welcome back. You're watching Taiwan Plus News. The UK is looking to close Chinese-funded Confucius institutes. That's according to the country's security minister.
May I also remind him of the Prime Minister's pledge during the leadership race only a few months ago, that Confucius institutes pose a threat to civil liberties in many universities in the United Kingdom, and he will be looking to close them.
British Prime Minister Rishi Sunak described China as the UK's #1 threat during his initial bid to become Conservative Party leader early this year. Banning Confucius institutes was another part of his foreign policy platform. Sunak lost that contest but became Prime Minister after Liz Truss resigned last month. There are currently 30 Confucius institutes in the UK. The United States is set to station 6 nuclear-capable B-52 bombers in northern Australia, a move which China says could trigger an arms race in the region. To find out more about the decision, our reporter James Chater spoke to Paul Buchanan, a former US intelligence and defence analyst now based in New Zealand.
How significant is this development of the US wanting to station more B-52s in Australia? What's genuinely new about this development?
We have to remember that there's a B-52 squadron positioned in Guam semi-permanently, and this will now add to it. It's not a replacement for that squadron, but it's an additional squadron that will rotate in and out of Tyndall Air Force Base on a seasonal basis. And what that allows the United States to do is project heavy bomber force into the eastern rim of the Indian Ocean, as well as reach the Chinese mainland and North Korea from Australia.
But is it your understanding that this is really a development that is being taken and a move that's being taken with the US's strategy towards China in mind?
The point here is that the Americans are adding new assets and distributing them in what is basically another layer of a ring fencing exercise directed at the PRC. The US has already said, repeatedly I might add, in public, that it is going to move 60% of its military assets into the Indo-Pacific. And there is only one rival in that region that would warrant that amount of attention, and that's the People's Republic. So it's a big move. I mean, it's a big move, and there's, the upgrades to Tyndall to handle these airplanes include the extension of a runway and then the building of a full, equipment housing for a B-52 squadron, which is a considerable amount of men and machines. So it's a big deal. It's directed at China, and the Chinese, I'm sure, are very well aware of that.
And how has this development been received in Australia itself? And what do you think this tells us about Australia's positioning and role in Indo-Pacific strategy?
Well, it confirms Australia's role as the deputy sheriff in the Southern Hemisphere. Australia has decided to replace the United Kingdom as America's foremost military ally, and it's well on the way to doing so. This is the Americans' way of confirming that they see it as in the same way. Remember that we already have a 5,000 plus soldier Marine Expeditionary Unit that rotates through Darwin. And that confirms to the Australians that they're the first amongst equals.
The US and Australia are far from the only countries looking to bolster their military capabilities faced with Beijing's increased military might. Taiwan's defense minister has said that if China invades, Taiwan is ready to fight to the bitter end. But lawmakers are unhappy with how he's handling the country's sea defense. Some officials say the military has bungled a plan to build a new Navy frigate at the cost of over $700 million. Stash Butler reports.
只要中共的旗帜没有插我们各部会的楼上，他就没有赢啊！这个战不是我们发起的，我们完全就是迎战，迎战就一定是战到最后。
Defiant words from Taiwan's defense minister on Tuesday. His sentiments come at a time when the threat of a Chinese invasion of Taiwan seems more real than ever. To help deter a seaborne attack, Cho had intended to build two 2,000-ton Navy frigates. The ships would carry a price tag of around $760 million. But Taiwanese lawmakers are unhappy. They say the budget was approved for one bigger frigate, not two smaller ones. Now they want answers about why the plan changed and why they were not consulted.
让你们做了大型的巡防舰做不出来的原因是什么？有没有人负责任？有没有单位负责任？那刚好遇到现在这个状况了，那我就直接把原来的案子改成做成2艘小的。
The Navy says the smaller ships need fewer personnel to operate. They also claim that the frigates will perform better on the choppy waters of the Taiwan Strait. But legislators say the change of plan reflects bigger issues, such as whether Taiwan can build the type of ships needed to adequately protect its borders.
报建能量倒是一个问题，好，国内是不是撤下来？你们预算支出后有结余，有没有挪用到其他项目的问题？
Both government and opposition officials agree that Taiwan's military does need increased funding for its maritime defences. But where that money goes, and whether or not the ships can be built, is still a point of contention. Alex Chen and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
With Taiwan's local elections in less than a month, authorities are making sure it will be a clean vote. Prosecutors are already investigating over 2,000 cases of vote buying this election season, involving over 4,800 suspects. Some of the latest incidents involve a doctor refunding registration fees to support a new Taipei council candidate and a Taidong County Council hopeful giving supporters free banquet meal vouchers valued at $30. Taiwan caps election gift values at about $1. Taiwan has hit the bullseye after a successful bid to host the 2022 Indoor Archery World Series. More than 200 professional and amateur archers from all over the world are expected to compete. The event will be held from December 8th to the 11th at the National Taiwan Sport University in Taoyuan. This will be the first time Taiwan has hosted the tournament. It will also be the first tournament to take place since 2020 after going on hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And now for a slightly sweeter story. A Taiwanese team has won an award at one of the world's most prestigious confectionery competitions. Taking place in France, the team wowed the judges with both their culinary skills and their perseverance. But Team Taiwan's road to the event was not an easy one, as Leslie Liao reports.
Team Taiwan takes the stage at the 2022 International Confectionery Art Competition. Hosted in Paris, this is one of the premier confectionery competitions in the world. It's a proud moment for the Taiwanese participants, who are taking home the Best Team Spirit Award. The prize, which is the equivalent of 4th place, is awarded to teams that displayed notable amounts of stamina and determination during the event. Team Taiwan got to wave their national flag as they accepted the award. Most competitions ban the flag under pressure from China, which claims Taiwan as its own.
整个是很开心，因为可以拿台湾的国旗在这样子的一个全世界的一个全球性的比赛当中得到名次是非常开心的。
Teams of 2 from over a dozen countries came to compete in the biennial competition. They had 20 hours over 2 days to make 7 items. This year, Wang Jiacen and Tong Yijing represented Taiwan. Their confectionaries included a dessert pastry called an entremet, a sugar sculpture, chocolate, and an artistic creation of their choice. But the Taiwanese team's journey to the competition was a difficult one. Tong was originally the team's assistant. She was called up to compete fewer than 10 days before the contest due to a clerical error. It was a feat that made a big impression on the judges.
Alors en fait, Taïwan d'abord en premier nous a impressionnés par le fait que la candidate, 10 jours avant, elle ne savait pas qu'elle allait concourir. Elle n'était pas prête. Et malgré tout, ils se sont donnés, ils ont beaucoup travaillé.
Team Taiwan had also encountered financial problems leading up to the event. The group had to crowdfund to finance their trip to France. More than 800 people donated, contributing 7 times the team's original request. Despite not breaking into the top 3, Taiwan's performance at this year's competition was the country's best performance yet. The team also made a lasting impression on the judges and crowd, winning over hearts, minds, and taste buds. Klein Wong and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of giant kites in Guatemala, celebrating its traditional Day of the Dead. I'm Yin Khvat. Take care and see you next time.